So let's bring in Peter MacKay. He's a former Foreign Affairs Minister, Justice Minister, National Defense Minister. Peter, good to see you on this Tuesday. Your thoughts on where things stand here and the sort of quandary that Mark Carney finds himself in here.
Yes, the Prime Minister sounds very sanguine, and I would describe it as managing expectations now with respect to what an inevitable trade agreement would look like that might include permanent tariffs. So this is a far cry from some of the earlier, perhaps more optimistic musings from the Prime Minister and others about how we were going to retaliate with tariffs dollar for dollar. Very little discussion about that now. And as you said, it's an extremely difficult situation for all countries right now, given the volatility and the unpredictability of this president. Some 20 countries received letters last week, as I understand it, describing various levels of tariffs between 30 and 25%. Canada, inexplicably, seems to be on the hit list and getting the highest tariffs of any country. So this is very bad news for our economy at a time when we're still very vulnerable.
There also seems to be no rhyme or reason to some of the president's decision-making here, Peter. It almost seems like it's made on a whim based on the day or the mood that he's in or what he thinks about the leader of that country or perhaps the last person who just spoke to him.
Yeah, I think all of that is true. He is very impulsive, mercurial if he feels offended. We saw that certainly in the relationship between he and the previous Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, where there was some poking and prodding and some insults, perhaps perceived or real, that led to spontaneous outbursts and tariffs then as now. So we have to find a way to navigate this, and perhaps that happens quietly behind the scenes with officials. But certainly gone is the rhetoric of the election, and elbows up looks more like elbows down and something more resembling a chicken dance than some sort of really tough stance.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because, as you know, there was some recent polling about that where, a lot of Canadians said, we need to be strong. We need to have our elbows up. We need to be, confident and assertive with the Americans. I mean, it's fine to say that, but you know better than a lot of people, having been involved in government, that, talk is cheap. At the end of the day, the Americans have a lot of the cards here, and sometimes that's difficult politically to explain to voters. But, ultimately, the economy is what it is, and the relationship is what it is, and geography is what it is.
Well, that's right. And the history doesn't appear to matter as much as it used to. And to mix metaphors, they have the cards and they're walking loudly with a big stick. Canada can do certain things internally that the Prime Minister has talked about, including diversifying trade, getting rid of interprovincial trade barriers. But I would suggest, and this is simply my opinion, one of the most important internal moves that has to be taken to jumpstart the Canadian economy is talk about the development of our natural resources and legislative steps, investment steps, doing what has to be done to ensure that the Canadian energy sector and the natural resources sector writ large, including our critical minerals, are going to be able to get into the world market. On diversification, it's capitalizing on existing trade relations that we have with European Union trade bloc in the Asia Pacific. Quite frankly, an advantage that we have over the Americans. But we talk a great deal. We're not seeing a lot of action on that. The cabinet meeting, great idea. Meeting with the premiers next week, great idea. But time's a wasting, and we've got to make some of these significant moves to unlock the Canadian economy and put some distance and independence between us and over-relying on the Americans.
Do you think, and I know we're being pushed closer to the Europeans as a result of this, China, India, I mean, it just makes sense to look for other friends if your best friend is suddenly no longer that. But what about concessions that Canada may be pushed to make? I wonder about supply management, which the president has specifically talked about, other issues as well, and whether you think that there will be some concessions made on some of those issues by the Prime Minister, Peter.
Well, Todd, the pressure will certainly be on, and we saw what happened, how quickly the Prime Minister folded on the digital services tax, how we removed tariffs quietly even before the election was over. And so that seems to be the next brick in the wall that may fall. The references to the unfairness of supply management which again is a bit fact-free when one considers that the American market is much, much bigger. I don't think there's a huge impact of Canadian product as far as the U.S. market. And similarly, still complaining about fentanyl and illegal immigration. None of this is really a big, big factor that would cause the president to exert the type of leverage and, quite frankly, punitive measures that have been imposed and further that may come. So it's, it's shifting sands. It's almost impossible to predict where this goes next. But hopefully the prime minister, when he references stability, is referencing what's happening behind the scenes, and that our ambassador, our trade negotiators, all of the ministers who are seized with files related to the United States are able to get back to a bargaining table and have some semblance of reasonable rule of law discussions.
Peter MacKay, former Foreign Affairs, Justice, Defense Minister in Conservative governments in the past. Peter, thanks for your time as always. Appreciate you joining us from Nova Scotia.
Thank you, Todd. The very best to you.